I'm Fred McMurray, and it's time for another episode of Pillars Principles with Ray Pillar and Jim Treleaven. Ray, Jim, great to see you this week.
Hello,
Fred.
All right. So we've left the concept of starting your business. The topic today is you've already started your business and you want to grow it. So as you want to grow it, what's the best method for setting business goals? Because you're not going to grow your business if you don't have business goals. So who wants to jump in first? Ray? Ooh, Ray's excited today.
All right. So the first thing that came to mind is the Olympics. And how do you become an Olympian star, gold medal star? What's one of the things that the coaches will tell you if you're going to go for the gold?
So I have a comment that's not politically correct, so I'm going to keep it.
So
you
visualize it. You visualize it. You see yourself standing on that platform holding up the medal. So when you start a business, the best thing you can do, and this is probably a thought that should permeate your brain constantly, at least daily. Where do you see yourself in 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? Where do you see it? How do you visualize yourself? And you really, it will change. So, obviously you probably, when you first start out, you're going to maybe go for, well, where do I see myself next year? And as you approach that, okay, so now your plans are going to change a little bit. Where do you see yourself in 2 more years? And you just keep on going. And you need to plan for that ending, for that 20-year mark. And it could be just a simple change about who you hire to begin with, right from the start. And that will make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, you're going with Covey's begin with the end in mind?
I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Begin with the end in mind. Yep.
Seriously.
I totally support what Ray just said. You have to know what your goal is and what your vision for the business is. Then what do? So I think the most important thing is to start with evaluating the business as it is. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the business? What things need to be, well, the strengths are probably more important than the weaknesses because the success will generally be built on the strengths. And then the weaknesses should be addressed, but the strengths are probably the most important. Then you need to think about in a little more detail what needs to be done to grow it, to get to that goal. And that could be, for example, it's not just, more sales, which that's without question part of it, but it could be, better retention of the base, which can contribute to revenue just as much, if not more than new sales. And so does better retention of the base mean we have to have better service to the customers and understand where we stand with the customers in terms of customer satisfaction. And if that's an issue that needs to be addressed, and then track religiously how they feel and how we're in general meeting the goals that Ray just described, but you need to track everything religiously. But in even small businesses, there are many factors. There's new sales, there's what are the competitors doing that you might have to react to. How is customer satisfaction, which I mentioned, what is customer retention? And build up a model that says, here's where our 10 tier goal is going to come from and what it's going to look like. And then what of those factors do we need to focus on to get there?
All right. So I picked on Ray for going with Covey. I'm going to pick on you because what I heard was focus on the strengths, but the example you gave was we have poor customer service because that poor customer service would be a weakness.
Yes.
So in a sense, you're focusing on how to resolve the weaknesses you have, not how to apply the strengths.
Okay. So I said that you should also address the weaknesses, but I will give you an example. One company that I was running, who actually was fairly large, but and it was a software business, and the software was viewed by the customers as being old because there were a lot of new fancy companies coming, like SAP and others, saying, oh, look at us, shiny graphical user interfaces, we use mice, all those kinds of things. And your crappy product just uses character-based screens and whatever. So the strategy the company was following was, and it was to fix the problem, which was they didn't have that technology. However, the solution was focusing on their strengths. Their product was absolutely solid as a rock. It could support far more data, far more transactions, far more everything than the client server products because it was basically mainframe based. And so one of the strengths was it was very scalable. It was very solid. And the customer service was second to none. Super happy customers with that regard. So, so the company was going to throw that out and build a copycat product, which was not good. So if you focused on the strengths, the solution was to put a thin client, basically browser on the front end. It looked just like the other ones, graphical user interface and a mouse and everything. And so building on the strengths helped that company do really well, actually, even with what was considered an old product. But it looked new, and the technical fix was easy. So the solution there was focusing on the strengths.
Okay, I get where you're aiming at it. In my head, though, that's we got a strong product. Let's fix what's weak.
Yeah, that's okay. That's focusing on the strengths. That's as opposed to throwing it out and being a copycat.
Yeah, that to me, that solution was just stupid.
Yes,
you focus on the defect of the product to fix that to make the customers happier, and that's in Fred's brain. That's how it works. But I get what you're going with. Okay. So with these goals, what makes them achievable? How do you measure progress? Or is that when I have a list of goals, you can't see it, they're on the wall that we set up at the beginning of the year, and I can tell you that I have made no progress in playing the guitar, no progress in learning to speak Sanskrit. Really want to be able to swear in Sanskrit. But I'm making phenomenal progress on the migration of Link Local Network to KPHRED.
Okay.
It was a very nebulous goal of this is what...
That probably was a more important goal than Sanskrit.
And that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, okay, I haven't learned how to swear in Sanskrit. You'll know when I have. But the important goals, and I'm fine with the smaller ones. I'm making 2 out of 3 times a week in the gym, so I'm doing good there.
That's good.
But with the goals we set, it was a year-long goal, so it was really not what I'm going to say measurable. It's measurable, but there weren't any mile markers, goalposts in there, or levels. Is it important in your plan to have those type of interim goals for the full period?
One of my visualizations as part of where we're going in the forward was improving customer service. And when I say improving it, I mean from the standpoint of a book I read, and I can't think of the complete title, but it was something like customer service in this country sucks.
That would
And
be a good title if
and
it
I
wasn't.
remember reading that book and thinking to myself, if and when I read it before I started the business, if and when I start a business, I want to make sure that my customer service is the best. It's the premium. It's the best I can possibly provide. And so thoughts were running in my head that how can I do that? And how is that going to be related to my goals for the future? So one of the simplest things that you can do to improve customer service is answer the phone, because you deal with vendors all the time. I of course deal with vendors, and one of the things that irritates me is, of course, is going through the computer system to push one to do this, two to do that, push six to do that, and then when you get maybe after the third or fourth one, you push six, and then you got three more choices after that, and another two more choices after that before you actually begin to talk to anybody.
Push a billion to get to a human.
Yeah. So if you call my business, someone live will answer the phone. And if you're a client of ours, your customer details will pop up on that screen automatically if you call from the same phone number we have with you. So we have, I feel, the really premier customer service just from that standpoint. And then, of course, we go beyond that. But that was part of the things that was that I visualized before and during the points I visualizing where my business is going to go.
All right, so you hit kind of a topic we're going to probably go into in another segment of customer service, but that's the fatal terrain you decided to fight on, Sun Tzu. So as you're visualizing we'll say the improvement in customer service, did you put metrics on how that would be measured? Because it's hard to measure how many people can call in, but was that the total measurement of number of phone calls, customer service, or were there other parts of it that you measured, and how often did you measure?
Okay, before we had VoIP, voice over internet, we had a goal in the office that the phone cannot ring a second time.
Oh.
So and then so that was a measurement to start with. Now that we have VoIP, of course, we have all kinds of statistics. How long, if we put a customer on hold, how long that is, are they being transferred, and the statistics. And although I haven't viewed them recently, I do sit in and listen to my team in the other office, talking to clients all the time. So I have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
All right. So what I heard was there were several statistics that you kept track of, and then you had oversight in order to see where you were making those goals and where you were following.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are a few other measurements there that would be good too, like the abandoned call rate, and another one is first call resolution of the problem. That's an important one in that environment. Yep.
And all those become available to you when you have a VoIP system, including one which I have used in the past, but not recently, and it's able to monitor phone calls. So you can tap in on a conversation without being detected, and monitor how the conversation is.
Big brother, are you?
Yeah, I know. Well, hence the precursor that says these calls may be monitored for
yes,
training and whatever.
Exactly.
So
And one other point too, we also have recording. So and that that warning is on there specifically for the recording, so that if a customer says, "No, you told me this, and now you're telling me that," saying, "Well, sir, we have the recording, and we can email that recording to you if you would like."
And no privacy violations. So.
Yeah.
I will tell you that as somebody who's called in and heard that, when I tell usually it's tech support that, by the way, I'm recording this call to improve customer service, and that I will have the recording and I'll be able to say what they said. That really freaks a whole lot of customer service folks out. I think in my time calling tech support ISPs, I've actually had one or two maybe hang up on me when I did that. All right. So we don't want to go, I want to do customer service at a later time, and I don't want to go too much deeper in there. Outside of customer service, Jim, you mentioned with the one company that they literally added a different piece to their system, and that made it much better.
Yep.
All right. So outside of customer service, what other places should be measured to improve business goals? Or let's put it this way, are there any areas of the business that you shouldn't be setting goals for?
Probably not, or you shouldn't have that area. But in any case, so for that company, in addition to the sort of competitive challenge of the client's more modern architecture, and then when we fixed it, it was equivalently modern. Actually, it is now what would be known as the cloud, but and AWS in early days. But anyway, so the issue there was so that kept customers from leaving. So the question then was, where was the growth going to come from?
Measuring growth.
So in that case, the issue came from looking at where the industry was going, and for products like SAP and Oracle, most of it actually gets sold by Accenture, IBM, all those kinds of companies who are out talking to senior level people in customers and pushing them on, the new latest greatest thing, client server. And so the issue then became, where was growth going to come from? Because the customers were very large, and getting more of those was going to be virtually impossible. So when you looked at that, then the solution is, which is true for a lot of businesses, is more revenue from the existing customers. So where was that going to come from? And based on what I just described, the company made a couple small acquisitions of companies that could be support organizations, and then built up or consulting organizations relative to the product that can do installations, can do upgrades, can do all that kind of stuff. And so built up that business internally rather than relying, because nobody was going to get Accenture to switch. But so it was building that business up internally, the services piece, which was the way to grow revenue. And it did. I mean, it wasn't dramatic. That's not a huge leap, but revenue went from shrinking for 10 years to actually growing, and albeit at a not rocket ship rate, but still.
Yeah, that's better than going the other way.
Yep. Beats the alternative.
So going back to what I said earlier, so in other words, they focused on a weakness, which was lack of services, and grew that to improve revenue.
Or added that. It didn't exist.
Okay. So next time I want to, I love this business growth topic. we all have it. And the next pillars principles, I want to cover the idea of what happens to your growth plan when a black swan event happens. And for those who don't know what a black swan event is, it's one of those things of how often do you see a black swan? The pandemic was one of them. And that impacted a whole lot of folks' growth. So next time on Pillars Principles, we'll deal with that. On this topic, Ray, any last comments?
Yes. Speaking of black swan, you've got to include that in your thoughts. And I will leave it there.
And that's what we're going to go into next, because I agree with you. Jim, last thoughts?
Well, for the company I was describing, the black swan event happened, and that was Y2K.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This was the perfect company that would be affected by Y2K. Software written in the 70s in COBOL. And so, so Y2K was an issue that had to be dealt with. Now, it turns out it was not that difficult, actually, if you anticipated it and did it. And we didn't see airplanes falling out of the sky and all the other stuff too. So, but in any case, so that was a black swan event for this company. But, it could be anticipated. In part, I'm not sure that companies all recognize that on their own, but it was certainly something that got enough publicity that the world was going to come to an end. But it really did affect this company and not all the other stuff that the popular media was talking about. But it wasn't that difficult to fix, actually. So, but that was a good example.
At least they knew it was coming.
Yep.
They did. They did.
We'll be back next week with another episode of Pillars Principles. Have a great business, folks.